In this video, you will learn about 4 different tiers of digital pathology. Yes, there is more than just whole slide imaging, and some of the options are a lot cheaper. Hi, I'm Alexandra Żuraw, and I'm here to help you do better digital pathology. Whether you are just starting or want to keep up with the new developments in the field, Digital Pathology Place is your place. This video is a part of a podcast episode that I did with Mike Miller from Miller Microscopes. Miller Microscopes is a company with 4 generations of experience, and they are a distributor of different digital pathology systems. Mike is going to take us through 4 different tiers of digital pathology. And be sure to stay till the end because there is a special bonus. Mike, as a distributor, is in the unique position to actually talk about price points. Price points of those different systems. Wherever you go to a website of the vendors, you will not see the prices there, and he's going to tell us what the price point, what the ballpark of the prices of those different solutions is. Tier 1. Simple microscope camera.
Simplest form, it's just a camera connected to your microscope, some good imaging software, being able to adjust the image and capture it. And there you have an image.
So that would be the basic option, camera and a microscope. Who's starting like that? In your experience, and who would you offer this to?
Very good question. So in my experience, I mean, anything from just out of med school, resident, a lot of them are capturing images for learning purposes, presentations, just collaborations amongst people, just, interesting cases. So, the beginning of digital pathology would be a younger student, but anywhere up to a tenured attending, honestly, capturing images for similar concepts of putting together presentations, of course, tumor board meetings and conferences, that can all be done with a very nice camera on top of your microscope with software to capture the image. Yeah.
Now the price point of a microscope camera that has high resolution and high quality is a lot lower than even like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you need obviously the microscope and the camera, right? Do you need a trinocular microscope or can you use a normal binocular one? What are the basic options there?
Sure. Very good question. So yes, so there are many components to a microscope. So you need a trinocular head. For almost all manufacturers have mostly C-mounted cameras. What I mean by C-mount is on top of the trinocular head, you have an adapter. That adapter is called a C-mount adapter. And all microscope cameras, the nice thing about that is, of course, brands want to keep a nice brand camera on their microscope, but it really gives you the ability to put any brand camera on any microscope. There's so many applications and so many needs, and even more types of cameras. So trying to figure out the right camera is a topic for a different conversation. But yeah, so essentially you need the camera, which attaches to the C-mount, and that's an industry standard. Threading is the C-mount. The other end, the flange mount, needs to match the brand of the microscope, and then the trinocular head to put all of that. And then that's really it. And then a computer. Nowadays, there are very nice cameras that have HDMI output. Some of those even have on-screen controls, so you can adjust your white balances, your brightnesses, your gammas and gains and stuff like that simply on a monitor without the need for a computer. So that's a really nice newer feature these days too.
So I have a trinocular microscope that, by the way, I bought by Miller Microscopes.
Thank you.
And so I have that, and I also used a camera that you can just put into your ocular. You take out the ocular, so that's like even the more basic option in my opinion. But the trinocular gives you the ability to just look at slides and not bother of taking the ocular in and out for the workflow. Definitely better. So that would be the basic. What's the next tier of digital pathology solutions?
Tier 2. Microscope camera allowing for streaming.
We're doing this call, thankfully, over Zoom. Nobody wanted COVID to happen, but it allowed us to all become comfortable on a computer. So the next step of digital pathology is streaming. Again, we have put together, or with other people in the industry, have come up with a solution called telepathology, telepathology is a well-known thing. Real-time telepathology is just what we had named it back in the day. I should give credit to my father, Steve. He's the one that really pioneered the technology. We're now lucky that we can do that. And so really all you need is, again, a good microscope camera, good internet connection, very important, and you can do telepathology over streaming. Some limitations, honestly, as most people listening probably are pathologists and have experiences that. There's compression, there's lag, there's latency. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but a streaming solution from our experience that's straight connected to the network is always going to be better than trying to do it over Zoom or Teams. So a camera is the first step. And then again, before we've historically used a separate box. Of course, that adds cost, that adds to the workspace. So we now have a camera that's really nice. It has multiple output modes. So it's a 4K camera. It offers very, very stunning resolution images in USB. So you can do the Teams and Zoom with software. It even has HDMI output. So multi-use. Let's say in a gross room, you want to have an image up on a screen. If the surgeon comes up and looks at the nice monitor hanging on the wall, you have HDMI out. But again, this camera also has a network port built into it. So you simply plug it into the network and boom, you're streaming the image live. That can be something that's stationary. So again, at UPenn, we have a few of those that are now stationary. Again, they have different F&A areas or different rapid on-site evaluation places they can get to, and they need a dedicated solution there. Other hospitals like at Temple University, we just implemented 2 mobile carts. So what we did was we actually mounted very nicely and clean, because you don't want anything to go missing, mounted microscopes to the top of the cart, and then have this camera built on top of that as well. Even created a laptop arm so they can actually pull up patient correct information and have everything right there on a nice little mobile cart. And the workflow for that is really simple. What we did is we put an outlet strip on there, they plug that in, everything powers on. Then they plug the network cord into a dedicated network jack, and this is a little bit technical, essentially an internet jack in the hospital that is secure, locked down, compliant, and very simple. As soon as that camera gets plugged into the network, pathologist clicks on a link that I set up on their desktop, and boom, they're seeing a live image streaming. So that may say, oh, well, what's the difference between Teams? One of the major differences is no computer needed. Now, it's nice to have it's nice to have a TV or something there to see, so you can see as the person driving the microscope what the remote person's seeing, but no computer needed, no need to create a Teams meeting, invite the person, accept them, share your screen, do all of that. It's just plug and play in that form.
So who is the main user of this at the moment, and who would you recommend?
Sure. So the main users are going to be cytopathologists, people those who are going out and doing the F&As and on-site evaluation. It could be on-site. It could be at a satellite location. So we're just fortunate in Philadelphia to be in a very condensed area, but there's many, many rural areas who pathologists drive 2, 4, 5 hours to go read a case. They don't necessarily need to do that now. As long as you're on this main network, same network of the location you're trying to send the image to, and then you just simply can do it over telepathology. So really the options are endless, the applications are endless. It doesn't have to be for cytology or on-site evaluation, but that's the main use case we're seeing it now, as well as people in more rural areas who now don't have to ship slides or drive back and forth. One more point I wanted to make is about the streaming before we move on, which is a good transition, is streaming, again, requires someone at the local site to control the microscope. That's very important. So it requires a little bit of a learning curve to make sure that you have a good streaming connection. That's why the connection is very important. It can't be any really lag or latency or compression. You require a phone call conversation to say to the person, okay, I've seen this area, move on, or so on and so forth. So that's one of the downsides or things to overcome, I shouldn't say, of streaming, is having someone there who's comfortable, who's confident, who can control the microscope. Now, I've heard from many people in many hospitals that there is a shortage for good cytotechs or good people, to go out in the field. So that's a good transition to the next topic, which is live remote microscopes.
Tier 3, live remote control microscope.
Our third option. We had the basic plus with streaming, and now it's the live remote. Okay, tell me about the live remote.
Motorized microscopy has been done in many other different departments and divisions for many years. That's now becoming part of clinical, and it's a little bit different. So there are some basic routine microscopes that you would see in a pathology department that has the adaptation of a motorized stage and a motorized Z and a motorized nose piece. But a lot of companies are now kind of vying for that space as it's becoming more prevalent of becoming a live remote controlled microscope. So we offer our customers a few solutions. Of course, some manufacturers sell direct, some go through distributors like us. So we can offer what we can offer. If we think we have a couple very good solutions, but essentially it allows, as long as you can connect and control someone else's computer, you can then control the microscope. There's no secret sauce there. Some companies do have a dedicated streaming solution built in, but this is a nice thing for two reasons, or having it done this way is nice for two reasons. One is, again, we talked about being inside of the hospital network, right? When you're streaming an image through the network, you have to be in the hospital network. In a live remote controlled system, there's really no limit. So TeamViewer, Zoom, Teams, any of these screen sharing programs that allow someone to assign the remote person mouse controls allows them to control their computer. So essentially, I have my hardware connected to a computer. Some have them controlled over the internet, but hardware connected to a computer or internet, and then giving someone at a remote site mouse controls of my computer, they then can control the software in every which way.
I know this screen controlling, again, from IT troubleshooting, they always want to remote into your computer. So you're basically doing the same, and you are moving the stage through the computer as a pathologist or whoever is evaluating the slide. Okay, fantastic. So who uses it now, and who would you recommend it for?
In that case, we're getting into really anybody that has the need to do a remote pathology consult. We have to talk about the FDA regulations, and I'm not here to say what's right or what's wrong. There are ways you can internally validate a system to use them. But of course, for whole slide scanning, which is the last topic, there are FDA approvals that are required. But for live remote control and streaming, there is a way to internally validate it. So really, once you do that, anybody can do it for consults, for second opinions, for tumor boards. You would know, I guess, as a pathologist a little bit more than I would. But yeah, it allows really at that point, right? We talked about needing someone on site. You still need someone there, but all they have to do is load the slide.
Okay.
So this is kind of a hybrid system. It's a remotely controlled system. It's just simple, real quick. There's no need to scan a slide in to then manipulate it. It's real time. So it's not to document and create a backlog of all your cases. It's more, again, to take the next step. You're streaming. Yeah, really like that capability. You see value in that. Let's jump to the next step, having a remotely controlled microscope that somebody or anybody can control. As I like to say, you can be on the beach in Hawaii. As long as you have a good internet connection, you can control and sign out your cases, or do consults.
Obviously, as we talk about those different options, the cost increases with the complexity and with the capabilities. Can you say what, like, ballpark, what range that would be for the basic, for the second one, and for the third one? And then whole slide imaging is big range from depending how many, but the first three options, what would that be?
Yeah, so basic cameras, again, there's so many options out there, from a couple $100, more of a hobbyist, more of an entry-level camera, to, for pathology, you can get into the $8,000-$10,000 range. At that point, you're really talking about a low light fluorescent grade camera. Yeah, between a good microscope camera for clinical pathology really is about $3,000 to $6,000 depending.
Okay.
And some of them offer modular-based solutions where you have to pay extra for certain features. So if you're just looking to do image capture and maybe an annotation or a scale bar, sure, that's usually included. But there's so many options, it really just depends. I mentioned before, we used to have to do live view, which is just HDMI with some output, or image capture, which was with the software to a computer. Now with these newer cameras, we have everything in one. So the streaming, HDMI. Okay. So those, it just depends. A couple $1,000s is really all you need to even do the streaming. There's, and then remote control systems, again, some of the ones that we offer that a lower slide capacity, you're talking maybe $20,000. Some of them go up to 50, even 70,000, but all of these for a decent remote controlled system is under 70,000.
Okay. So yeah, that's a reasonable investment for an institution.
Right. And that's just the hardware cost. Of course, implementation, no, there's not much cost associated with that, right? Your IT is already on staff, so you're not paying them extra to help get this set up. But there's, the learning curve, the time, time is money.
Tier 4, whole slide scanners.
The whole slide scanning, that's our last most expensive option. Let's talk about how whole slide imaging compares and contrasts to the previous options that we talked about. And I would say that whole slide imaging gives you all the capabilities that you had before. But as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, what about frozen sections? Right. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on who is whole slide imaging for, and who is it not for?
Sure. Yeah. So yes, there are very good use cases for whole slide imaging, but you hit the nail on the head there by saying frozen sections, or really anything that is time constrained. So frozen section is the biggest use case. You can't, there are high throughput scanners that can scan a slide relatively quickly, but in those cases, right, the Aptarios, Hamamatsu's, 3D Histech, these big name brands that are doing hundreds of slides, you're not going to interrupt the workflow of scanning 300 slides just to do one slide. So there are some use cases for whole slide imaging. There's a lot of use cases for whole slide imaging. There's also still the need for some of these, either it's a streaming capability or a hybrid system, live remote control system, I should say. What I mean by hybrid is some of those live remote control systems also allow low throughput scanning. So there is,
so we even have a transition between the third and the fourth tier. Okay. Before we go, let the listeners know where they can find you online. And also tell me, do you have options for the first 3 tiers that are your favorite options that you sell at iMiller Microscopes? And I'm going to link to those particular things in the show notes.
Sure. Yeah. So again, iMiller, we're based in Philadelphia, but we cover essentially upstate New York down to DC. We have sales reps that do that. Love great team of sales reps to cover that territory. Again, there's a lot more uses of microscopes besides clinical pathology, industrial manufacturing, all that. So that's one of our main focuses, educational and stuff like that. In the Philadelphia area is where we really cover the clinical market really nice, but we're expanding. So we're looking for people. This is a free ad. No, but anyway, in all seriousness. So imillermicroscopes.com. That website, we just have kind of about us, who we are, some of the products we offer. And then we also have a website called microscopecentral.com. So we have a whole new part of our business that my brother and I created. It's a website. We sell everything from the hobbyist level microscopes up to the high-end systems on there. New, used, refurbished. So microscopecentral.com and imillermicroscopes.com. As far as the basic, again, there's many, many different brands of cameras.
Tell me your favorite.
We have some new cameras that are 4K cameras. Our Path 4K is our leading clinical cell camera right now. That's the camera I kept referencing with HDMI, USB, network, even as Wi-Fi, 4K resolution, stunning quality. It's called Path 4K.
So that would be this tier 2 that we talked about, right?
1 and 2. So that's
1 and 2. Okay, so
capture. Yep. Actually, we talked about frozen sections. That's 10. They have one where it's HDMI to a screen, USB to the computer, and plugged into the network for streaming. So that covers, those 3 areas.
If you're still with me, I think you're awesome. So be sure to like and subscribe, and drop me a comment below. Which tier of digital pathology are you currently using, or maybe which one are you preparing to use? And in the meantime, if you feel like listening to the whole episode, go to the podcast section of the Digital Pathology website and join me there to listen to the full conversation. Talk to you in the next episode.